Mr. Wola Asase, Deputy Director and Head of Syndications of AFC. Welcome for this interview to PIAFRICA 2023. A few questions. I have 4 questions for you. The first one being, first of all, if you can briefly introduce yourself and your company.
Sure. My name is Wola Asase. I'm a Deputy Director and Head of Syndications for the Africa Finance Corporation. The Africa Finance Corporation is an investment-grade rated multilateral financial institution set up in 2007 to solve Africa's infrastructure deficit. We've been incorporated by African capital to make development on the African continent. We've invested over $11.5 billion in the last 16 years. We have a balance sheet size of $10.6 billion. And we focus on 5 key sectors, namely the natural resources sector, the telecommunications sector, the heavy industry sector, the transportation sector, and the power sector. So those are the 5 key sectors that we focus on, and we've been doing business for the last 16 years.
Can you please share your experience on this year's PIAFRICA 2023 conference?
No, certainly we're excited to be back again. This is the 6th year where we've been participating in this conference. We've been sponsoring the event in the last 6 years. And I think this year obviously is very pivotal because of everything that is going on, all the headwinds and the challenges that we're seeing in the global environment. We at the Africa Finance Corporation believe strongly that African capital should work for Africa. And we believe that there's a lot of liquidity which sits with the pension funds in Africa, on the African continent. And what we're trying to do is how do we mobilize that funding behind AFC to be able to make investments in Africa. And so we're certainly looking forward to the dialogue, the conversations that will happen here today. We've already seen the dividends by participating in this conference for the last 6 years. We've had a number of pension funds that have already invested in equity in AFC. They've come in directly through AFC. We've been able to mobilize pension fund money from Europe to invest alongside us into Africa. And we're trying to see how do we replicate that for pension funds in Africa to be able to invest alongside us in Africa. So we're certainly looking forward to the conversations here today.
Wonderful. And how do you see the pension fund or alternative investment landscape in Africa evolving over the next few years?
Now, I think we're going to see a shift. I think the pension funds in Africa historically have invested quite a bit on the traditional asset classes, so fixed income, bonds, listed equities. And I think what we've been trying to do, and I think this serves as an advocacy platform, where we've been trying to redirect and channel pension funds liquidity into alternative asset classes. I think we've seen what has happened in some African countries today, where a clear example is Ghana, where a lot of the pension funds are investing in fixed income government bonds. And obviously, we all know what has happened there with the default, with the sovereign default. And so alternative asset classes give good diversification for pension funds. And obviously, we invest in infrastructure assets, and that's a natural fit for pension funds because of the asset liability. They're able to match the assets and the liabilities effectively. So certainly, I think that's where we're going to see a lot of the shift going forward. And we're hoping that with these conversations, we can help pension funds continue to see how they can diversify their asset classes into the alternatives whilst also making returns, because we've demonstrated that investing in infrastructure in Africa can be profitable because we've done it for several years.
Indeed. And my last question, if you can share how AFC makes an impact on the growth and advancement of the pension fund sector.
Yeah, so I think one has to do with risk mitigation. So we've successfully been able to de-risk a lot of transactions in Africa over the last years. And as I said to you, we've done $10.6 billion in total assets in the last 16 years. And the ways that we've been able to do is to de-risk the structures to allow for us to be able to distribute these assets to mobilize capacity behind us. So risk mitigation is going to be critical for that. And also diversification. I think we've been talking about pension funds in Africa predominantly investing in traditional asset classes, in the bonds, in the listed equities. It's time for them to continue to see how they can move into alternatives, because that creates diversification, cross-border diversification. So not only investing in their own countries, but looking at spreading across geographies to create diversification for them. And we also put in place a lot of investments where they can co-invest alongside us. So not only do we bring the risk mitigation, not only do we bring the diversification, but also gives them an opportunity of pipeline, because we are able to originate, we're able to develop projects, and we're able to then feed those projects to the pension funds such that they can also invest alongside us as a way to also invest their capital.
Great, amazing. Thank you so much for
Thank you very much.
interview. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.